know, Callum is a guy that we believe can compete at that level.
Yeah. Devin Haney at 147. Impressed with what you saw?
No. I mean, Bill, they're not happy with me because I said it was boring. How boring was it? I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, you know, and I said on the broadcast, I give Devin respect. He's become a 3 division world champion, but it ain't good to watch. He doesn't want to engage at all. So it's not. I'm not having a go at them. I'm just being honest. He doesn't look like a guy that really wants to be in there. But anyway, well done to him.
What did His Excellency make of Devin's performance? Did you chat to him about?
No comment.
Because we had the Tom and Jerry comment
no
before.
comment.
So.
Let the hate begin. Eddie Hearn rips Devin Haney, says the performance was boring, not fun to watch against Brian Norman Jr. In this video, we're going to talk about it, break it down. The backstabbers, Two-Face, Harvey Dent, snaky behavior, Eddie Hearn. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing, and I'm coming to you live. You guys heard the clip at the beginning, Eddie Hearn being interviewed with the Stomping Ground, and he's pretty much tearing Devin Haney's performance up, which he did on the broadcast for DAZN, which I'll get into in a second. And you heard it. He said the performance was boring. It's funny when people do that. You know, people would be like, not to be rude, but you ugly as hell. You know what I mean? Or they'll say something like, they'll preface it with a disclaimer in the preamble. And then if someone says not to be rude, you just know whatever they're going to say will in fact be rude. And, you know, we call it backhanded compliments when people do what Eddie Hearn just did and they're like, credit for becoming a 3 division champion, but it was boring. You ran, da-da-da-da. It's not fun to watch. You know what I mean? So you're giving him credit, but then you're also kind of taking the credit away and flushing that down the toilet. What are my thoughts? Before I get into my thoughts, there's another interview I want you guys to hear from Mr. Eddie Hearn. Roll the clip.
It's a real fight, right, Nikisa?
Yeah.
I said, I'm not interested in, like, balloon.
Let's get to it.
You know, they're not happy with my comments, but it's just not good to watch.
Thinking media, Eddie Hearn, it's 7 a.m. I think it is. Cold, tired. Devin Haney, talk to me about Devin Haney. How impressed were you with his performance?
I mean, look, you got to give him the credit because he's become a 3 division world champion, but it's just not good to watch. He doesn't want to engage. He doesn't, which is right, you know. I mean that, but you know, they're not happy with my comments because I just said the truth. Like, he doesn't look. He's his eyes wide open the whole fight. Like, and he was always been a smart technical fighter, but look, he beat an undefeated fighter and he became world champion. So credit to him.
Conor Benn, how does Conor Benn beat someone like him who, like you said, does not want to get hit?
Look, he's not easy to beat because he doesn't want to fight.
He's not easy to beat because Devin Haney doesn't want to fight, says Eddie Hearn.
Beat someone like him who, like you said, does not want to get hit.
Look, he's not easy to beat because he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to, and that's smart. Like, I'm not saying, but it's just not, you know, and it's not like, oh, you wouldn't put your guys in with him because you can't beat him. He's difficult to beat because he doesn't want to engage. He's holding, he's grabbing, he's not doing anything. I mean, after he dropped Brian Norman really heavily, all he had to do was step on him. He would have stopped him. It would have been a great performance. But I'm just saying, people are watching that. You know.
But there's obviously been talks with Conor tonight and Turkey. Have they suggested anyone else other than Devin?
We're in a winner of Ryan Garcia against Maris Barros. So Las Vegas, Cinco de Mayo. That's what we want.
Okay. Last thing, ages announced Eagle.
Wow. So Eddie Hearn, he's not holding back and ripping Devin Haney. Now it's time to get to the moment of truth. What do I think? The Boxing Ego thoughts. Make sure you guys subscribe for more boxing news, more commentary. I always deliver. It's a bit tricky because I'm being fair, I'm being objective, I'm being real. On one hand, it's kind of what I told you in the watch party. For me, I'm not going to say it as harshly, and I'll explain why. Like, I told you, this was kind of a fight of halves. Devin Haney, first 5 rounds, I was loving the work, what he was doing. Very sharp. He was kind of bullying the bully. He got the knockdown, which surprised people. I literally said that this was, in my opinion, on paper, a 50-50 fight. There was a path for Norman to win. He had to fight the right fight. And there's a pathway for Devin to outbox him. I said I didn't see a knockout. I was right. I was 100% right. I also said for Brian Norman's, I noticed a trend where the Pops was doing a lot of interviews. There was a lot of, they did a great job. And it's funny because some people, they take what I say and then they try to makeshift and make what I say into something that I didn't say. I know what I say because I'm there when I say it. I always have mentioned that on my channel. And the funny thing is, nothing I said pre-fight changes now. I said that Devin copied Floyd Mayweather. He did. He copied him. He emulated Floyd. He's still in his lines. So that doesn't change. I don't care what the performance was. You still did that, right? I said Brian Norman and his dad were doing a better job of the pre-fight banter. That's nothing to do with the actual fight or how it's going to play out. See, I know what's happening. A lot of you guys can't control your emotions, so you think everybody acts like that. What I say about pre-fight banter is pre-fight banter. That isn't, this is who you want to win or whatever. This is a fight prediction. Done, So I like what Devin was doing in the first 5 rounds or so. He was violating, I'll demonstrate. He was making good on what he said. But having a dangerous puncher and, Brian started to kind of come alive. First fight at welterweight, yada, yada, yada. He trailed off. And I said that in my watch party. Round 6 through 11, because I think 12 was all right, solid round. But 6 through 12, right around there, Devin kind of trailed off. And then those were probably Brian Norman's best rounds. I think even on DAZN, their scorecard, they gave Brian Norman 3 rounds back to back. At the end of the fight, the judges had, I don't agree with it, but a judge had it 114 to 113, which was, to me, it wasn't that close of a fight to be doing all that. But I can, not that I understand it because I just told you I wouldn't have had that scorecard, but I will say this is Devin's lack of offense in the back half. Perhaps if you're, I guess, one of those judges that you like what you like, maybe you're not scoring it. So he has to clean that up and tighten that up. Not being reckless to give Norman or whoever the only opportunity they have to come back in the fight, but just be smart, know what to do, maybe a little less clinching. So in that regard, I kind of understand what Eddie Hearn is saying. Some people aren't going to appreciate the totality of the fight in terms of the back half. However, it is a bit over the top and over embellished, and I'm going to tell you why. For me, being a realistic boxing commentator I don't have a horse in the race. We can't criticize, I'm just saying the boxing public, Devin for losing to somebody who cheated him, right? Ryan Garcia, suing people and all the outside of the ring stuff, suing people, lawsuits, that type of behavior, trash talk. We can't condemn him for the Ramirez performance. Then he steps up his game, moves up in weight, and then we're going to be super harsh on that performance. So for me, I thought the performance was perfectly fine because the performance showed progression. You were in there with the perceived dangerous guy, a brand new weight class, and it was way better than your performance, in my opinion, that you were criticized for with Ramirez, where you unnecessarily moved. So me included, I criticized Devin for the Ramirez performance. So I feel like it would be hypocritical for me to like try to search this performance with a fine-tooth comb when the guy dominated and clearly won and got a knockdown, and it was a complete and stark contrast to what we've seen in his last fight. Like, I don't feel like that aspect of it is fair. Like, if we didn't have the Ramirez and the Ryan Garcia and this was a performance, all right, maybe judge it like that. But for me, I'm looking for progress. Devin showed progress. People complained, said you're on your bike a little too much. You were not initiating. He didn't fight Brian Norman, the bigger guy, the perceived bigger puncher, in a new weight class. He didn't fight him like he was scared. He was bringing the fight to him and and he was doing very clean work, especially early. My only criticism is in the back half of the fight kind of fizzled out a little bit. But the way Eddie Hearn is delivering it, it just comes across as hating and also treacherous, kind of snaky behavior, because this is somebody who you previously worked with. Why didn't you see? I don't even want to go too deep, but here's the problem with cats like Eddie Hearn is you worked with Devin for several fights. Devin was always, it looked like there was a good relationship. I was at your last or one of your last fights with him in San Francisco with Regis Prograis. Nothing in that Regis Prograis fight, and I covered the whole fight week. I even interviewed Eddie Hearn, right? Nothing for that whole fight week was like what you're saying now. You didn't say like, let's prepare for a boring fight. The Regis fight going to be boring, or Devin's a runner, or this, that. Now Devin, called you a name for the Joshua Dubois fight, blah, blah, blah. It don't look like y'all been working together like that. He's not signed to you. Now the gloves are off, and now you're saying what you really feel about him, maybe what you always felt about him. But it comes across as disingenuous when you didn't say none of these things when he was under the rematch room banner. And now he's his own man and, working with Turkey directly, it appears. And now you're like, oh, man, he horrible, he boring. This was a dread to watch, and nobody wants to watch that. And no one wants to fight him because he won't engage. It just is definitely the wrong messenger. I will say that. And again, back to what I said before, we can't have our cake and eat it too, where we criticize a fighter for looking a certain way. They definitely step it up against, in my opinion, Brian Norman appeared more dangerous than Ramirez, and it was a sharper performance than the Ramirez performance at the full weight. So why would the conversation be so negative towards Devin Haney right now? It is not making sense unless you're just trying to hate. Me, it don't matter what was discussed before. If I see and somebody improves or somebody's trying to improve and I see the progression, I see sharpness, I don't have no hating bone in my body. It's not in my blood to just hate on somebody, right? I tell you what I really feel. This comes across as hate, like you just bagging on it. Oh, you're boring. You don't want to engage and da-da-da-da. Not everyone's going to fight like Conor Benn. And for real, if we speaking to Conor Benn, if we're really being honest, I think Chris Eubank was weight drained, which I already said, already did videos about. And that rematch was horrible. I'd rather watch Devin Haney, Brian Norman over Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. He was in there with pretty much a dead man who was lethargic and like couldn't react and punch back and stuff like that. So it's funny that Eddie Hearn has so much to say about like Devin Haney, but then in the same breath, he'll talk about the Haney-Norman fight. Same breath, he'll try to make it like Conor Benn and Chris Eubank 2 was as good as the first or a classic fight. It wasn't. So it's funny how that works. You also got Jake Paul. You got your fighter, an Olympian, a heavyweight, instead of fighting Tyson Fury, Moses Tuma, Fabio Wardley, who just knocked out Parker, Joshua's old foe. And you got him fighting Jake Paul for what that's worth. But again, if Tank, see, this is what I'm saying, is funny style with Eddie Hearn and people like him, right? If Tank fight Jake Paul and you interview him, he'll probably complain like, oh, this is just a circus fight. I don't fancy it, blah, blah, blah. But then when your fighter do it, it's good. It's good when they do it. You know what I mean? So people who are kind of under his banner, he going to be less harsh on. And then people he may not have a good relationship with now, like Devin Haney, you know, he's going to be like gloves are off and real harsh on the criticism. So, yeah, I don't, for me, I understand that the performance trailed off, but being fair, being realistic, Devin needed that. He needed that type of performance. He got a knockdown, showed that he looked in shape. He was sharp. He had a great 1-2. He was fighting aggressive and mean in spots. You know, he really needed that for his just his reputation, his image, and there was a lot of pressure on him. So I can't condemn that and act like that was the worst thing I've ever seen and all that. But this is what they do to black fighters. You know, everything, if it ain't outright exciting like they want it to be, then it was boring and he ran and all this type of stuff. And here's the crazy thing about boxing. If Brian Norman would have pulled like a left hook out of his ass and rocked Devin Haney and Devin had spaghetti legs, then the same people would be like, this was a classic fight because Devin got wobbled. But that's not the sweet science. Devin or whoever, Floyd Mayweather, they shouldn't have to get rocked for it to be a good boxing match. But now people are like, oh, no Tom and Jerry fights and all this extra stuff. And they're really polluting the airwaves because boxing, Cus D'Amato told you, it's the art of hit where you can hit and you can't be hit, period. So, yeah, Eddie Hearn, he's doing too much. Let me know how I did in this video. Peace.